I've seen it, and I've seen it all my entire life. So when I go out here, I'm dealing with these people. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate any of them.
Right.
I don't know them. I don't know their story. And people got to realize it's okay. We hate them for a reason. We're mad at them for a reason because of the drug. So it's okay to hate the drug, but not hate the person. Over here, there's camps down there, a lot of brush, and there's a bunch of people sleeping down there, and we're finding all the needles and shit down there. They put the fence up, turned this no man's land into a nice little picnic area, added the concrete here.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, and the fence all the way around.
This is new.
All the camping was, they were just walking down and camping down there in the brush.
So, the other day you posted a video where you had an overhead shot of a certain area, and you went in there, and there was a bunch of camps.
Yeah.
Were those camps old?
Yeah.
Those were old.
They must be years old because it was layers and layers of junk. It would have taken years to pull all that stuff in because you have this. They couldn't drive a car to where it was, so it had to be hauled in there a quarter of a mile.
I'm wondering why they never get around to taking that out. It's almost kind of like a broken window.
I knew it was out there. I've run into camps walking my dogs before. I didn't know to the extent. You haven't seen anything yet because there's a lot of area that's still underwater. So they camp there from spring to wintertime. They abandon all the stuff, and it all soaks in the water and gets ruined. But tents, sleeping bags, all the free stuff they get, it's all out there, just sitting on the ground, layer after layer after layer.
Well, you can't imagine that people will value something that they didn't have to pay for.
Yeah.
So.
Well, some of our outreach friends would say, we delivered this stuff to them, and we left, it was clean, Brock. There was nothing there. But they're not there when the move happens. So when the move happens, they keep the new stuff and leave the old stuff. And then it sits there until the city throws it away. Then the city gets in trouble for throwing away a collapsed tent because that's somebody's property, but it's full of paraphernalia and junky stuff. So they're not going to go through it. If it's a collapsed tent left on the ground, it's going to get thrown away. And I see hundreds of them, literally hundreds. Nice tents. I mean, nice tents I would like to own that are in the mud,
Yeah.
And I just think that money could go to somebody, a mom with kids, or
right,
somebody that really needs it.
Well, I think I could make myself pass for homeless, and I guess you could go over to wherever they're handing them out. I don't know how this is.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
Of the tents that are passing behind us here, what portion of those do you suppose are coming from that supply?
Well, I would probably say at this point everything. We think they're buying tents.
Yeah. Right.
Not going to go out and spend $30, $40 on a tent and leave it in the ground. If they were paying for them, they wouldn't leave them on the ground.
Right.
Pack them up, take them with you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I don't know, and they're, it's different. You go through, and some of them are nice and tidy, like my tent would be if I was in the woods camping. But you get a kind of a feel for it, especially after they've been there for a few days. You know? I mean, some of these last videos I posted of Riverside West, that was 20 days of growth on the garbage. And the one thing I have noticed is I'm not seeing nearly as much paraphernalia on the grounds in the camps now that drugs are criminalized again. So that's probably a good reason for the police to get into their
So are the police are citing them and
for drug use?
For drug use.
Yeah, right now it's just for drug use. They're not enforcing any of the camping laws that the city provided us last year. The only one that they could follow was to not have any tents at Reinhardt or Riverside East. Those are off limits to camping. So they followed that one, but then all the rules they were told just don't molest them, leave them alone until it's over. And, it was so quick. A lot of people got really upset. I was upset. Now we have to go clean these parks again when they're gone. But, I figured it's just short time. We knew it was going to come to an end. So I tried not to let it upset me too much.
I would think that if the city is giving the permission to go stay there, they would have some sort of a a charge to come back and make sure that it's returned to the same condition once they...
You would think so. But once you start setting rules and standards, they'll go stay somewhere else. Because if it gets too hard on them at these camps and they can't stay at the parks, you know where they're going to go? To the bigger camps I was just filming.
Oh, right.
Outside of town. They can hold hundreds of people you'd never know they were there.
Right.
Hundreds, literally hundreds. And you could tell they live out there. They've got TVs, microwaves, they've got coffee makers.
Generators,
little kitchens
obviously.
area. Yeah, they'll bring, or batteries. That's why they steal batteries. You get a couple batteries and an inverter.
Inverter, right.
You know, run things for a couple days.
Yeah, I noticed that the R&M lumber people on J Street there, that was right adjacent to the camp, have had multiple of these
They lost
big
all those
truck
truck
batteries.
batteries. Yeah. So that's what I was keeping an eye open for those. See if I could find any.
It'll probably run a camp for a long time.
I
on
think
one
so.
Of those big batteries.
Yeah. It's crazy. So, you know, that's what everybody's, you know, it's funny because when it was just in the parks for the first couple of years, 2.5 years, it was one thing. It had, most of our supporters were park neighbors, parents of the kid. We were cleaning the ball fields for the parents, and that really, that got us a lot of members, a lot of attention. But then they moved out of the parks and they went downtown, and then all of a sudden everybody knew what's happening.
Right.
I took a walk downtown about a month ago, and I zigzagged through all the alleys through the old section of town for about 6 blocks. Filmed the same stuff: tie-offs, needle caps, burnt foil everywhere, poop on the ground. You know, so that's really, I think it's got the public. I think this town's ready to explode, just because nothing's happening and our quality of life has just been trashed. And it's everybody now. It's not just the park people. It's not just the parents.
Right.
It's all the shop owners, the business owners downtown that are getting their windows smashed in. And
Totally.
you know,
Yeah. A buddy of mine
on 6th Street. Yeah.
And he posts the videos of this all the time.
Yeah.
And he says it's more and more.
He's got to check windows first thing every morning.
Exactly.
And you shouldn't have to do that. That's why a lot of us want to be in this town. So what's going to happen is people are going to quit communicating with each other and interacting with each other. That's what's happening. When we got severed from the parks, that's where all our get-togethers were, right? We had music in the parks. You had the powwow. Of course, you've got Boatnik, that still happened. But there were so many things we would do, the community would get together. And if there's not a place to do that, you lose that contact.
Right.
And nobody wants to go to the downtown Safeway anymore, especially at nighttime. Women don't.
Right.
They don't want to be alone there. They get accosted so much. So now they stop looking at people. So now this same lady that would have looked at me and smiled and said hello is going to be looking at the ground going straight to the car, you know? So it severs that community tie we have.
So since the cops aren't spending their afternoons at these camp locations, why can't they spend time where crime is taking place? You mentioned Safeway parking lot.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's a lot of crime happening there, how about camping some people out down there and letting them know that there's zero tolerance for that sort of thing?
You would think.
Yeah.
You know, you would think. It just happens so much.
What do you think it is that we don't understand about their job that makes it impossible for them to do this?
Well, they've got bosses. You know,
Okay.
they're all, you know, they got.
What does that mean, though?
Well, I don't know. I just know that the police, if the chief says do this, all the officers downstream are going to have to do it, and then the chief has a boss, and then that boss kind of has a boss.
Yeah.
So our city manager is the boss of the police, I believe.
So this is a bureaucracy problem?
I don't know. I don't know. We all know what's going on, but why aren't they being more aggressive? Maybe is it because we keep getting sued? Because we're in a national spotlight and we're the guinea pig of everything?
This is the rock and the hard place issue. The city council, the new city council, did exactly what we wanted them to do.
Yeah.
But who came and screwed them? It's state policy that made this lawsuit possible.
Right.
And so now they're kind of they're a little gun shy.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
You know, they don't want to have to deal with this all the time.
Yeah.
Because sooner or later, if we keep having lawsuits, people are going to start looking at these city councilors, and so now they have to moderate everything in order to seem like a moderate
Well,
person.
and they saw what happened. You know, they closed this park down, and this lawsuit came, and everybody blamed them right away.
Right.
Right. Even though I believe the lawsuit was initiated when the last city council was
Right.
in charge.
Yeah.
But you hear it online and all the groups and stuff. You know, this is all caused because of the new city council.
But there are certain political activist people that are happening on Facebook that don't like what the new people are doing.
Right.
But the new people were overwhelmingly popular in the election.
Yeah, and that's happening more and more. I remember when they started camping at the parks, the percentage of the people that were against it was like 20 to 80, right? The vast majority of people I'm talking to are saying, well, these people are they're from Phoenix, from the fires, or they're from here or there. They just need a place to stay. Having grown up around addicts and walking through the parks, I'm saying, no, these aren't your homeless. These are the addicted homeless, not your circumstantial homeless. These are addicts using drugs in the open. People didn't believe us, right? So that's why we started filming. That's why we started showing the public what was happening there. And once people started seeing it, and then once it actually got out of the parks and into town, everybody saw it for what it is. Now everybody realizes you can't say the homeless without separating the addicted homeless from the truly homeless.
Yeah.
That's two separate problems.
You know what? When you look at this issue, that's the big deal. You have to triage it,
Right.
Because there's clearly, I have no problem in assisting the unfortunate homeless people.
Right.
You know, but the drug addicts, they're doing this by choice.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand they're a slave. They're not totally autonomous. But if you're going to help them, if you're going to include them in the homeless that you're helping, you have to tackle the addiction.
Right.
If you're not dealing with the addiction, you're not doing anything.
We're not at all. We're doing the same thing for the last 20, 25 years, expecting things to get better.
Yeah.
Harm reduction hasn't worked. That
right.
hasn't worked. The outreach money is going into useless, kind-hearted areas, but it's not doing the job. I no longer think, growing up in the San Francisco Bay Area, you know, I was a 1980s liberal.
I did too.
You know, and so that's where I was coming from. I remember they opened up the first safe injection site in San Francisco, first one in the nation.
Yeah.
I was for it.
Controversial.
It made sense to me. But the other side was saying, if you do that, every addict across the country is going to merge to San Francisco. You're going to have addicts from block to block, and they were right.
Yeah, they were right.
And the other thing I don't believe anymore is that you have to wait until they're ready. I call bull on that.
Oh, yeah,
I don't believe
them.
that anymore. I say force them. If they slip, force them. If they slip, pretty soon they're going to get with it, or they're not. But it's worth, if we save 50% of them doing that, let's do it.
Right. But also, if they're not inclined to enter treatment voluntarily, at some point they're going to get sick of being pushed into it involuntarily.
Exactly.
And they're going to leave the area, and then they're no longer our problem. You know, and you know, that sounds uncompassionate to say that, but you know, at some point, where do we fit into this?
Right.
You know?
Right. How many families are being torn apart? And we're losing a whole generation of people that should be taking care of their parents.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot more at play. There's a lot of kids that don't have parents. There's a lot of parents that aren't going to have kids.
Right.
You know, I'm in the middle. I've got one out there, and I love him dearly, but he's not going to be able to take care of me. I'm going to have to be protected from him at some point in my life. You know, if we're both still here.
Right.
Because he's an addict, and he'll want to keep taking, and you know, I'm not saying he will, but it's a concern I have because I know the truth.
So, okay, you obviously have some familial experience with this. How is it that you're not there?
You know, I don't want to say it's the gene. It hits some people and it doesn't. But being raised by an addict since I was about 6 years old, he was a coke addict, so there was always a pile of coke on the coffee table, and I knew not to disturb it and don't tell anybody and all that stuff.
Right.
I was using at 12. I was freebasing with my dad at 19.
Oh my gosh.
It was. So I know the allure, but I hit 21 and stuff, and my wife and I said, we don't want to do this, but let's start a family, and we want to, start a life. So we quit. I have another brother that quit, but I had one brother that didn't quit. So my father died at 48, an addict, and my brother died at Bear Creek, Greenway at 48, about 6 years ago.
Wow.
Homeless, and my son's been homeless from oh God, Portland, couple seasons in Portland. He stayed in San Francisco, Tenderloin. He bounces back and forth. They call him Drifter. That's his calling name, I guess.
Oh.
So he's got this bizarre life that I've been involved with, you know. I've seen it, and I've seen it all my entire life. So when I go out and I'm dealing with these people, I don't hate anybody. I don't hate any of them.
Right.
I don't know them. I don't know their story. And people got to realize it's okay. We hate them for a reason. We're mad at them for a reason, because of the drug. So it's okay to hate the drug, but not hate the person.
And the conduct.
Yes, it's what they're doing. Some of them are really bad criminals, and they deserve to spend the rest of their life in prison. I mean, there's some bad people out here. Oh. But how do you know, right? Until you talk to them, you don't know anything about them. So to just come in and start screaming and yelling at all of them is, you're missing the point.
Right.
You're not getting anything done. So I don't know. I believe just being strict. I think they all need to be locked up in rehab. You know, they need to be held accountable. You know, if you break the law, you go to jail.
Right. Well, when you consider that California spent north of $20 billion trying to deal with the homelessness issue, and they ended up with more homeless, how much would it cost you to incarcerate and put these people in mandatory treatment? Probably less than that.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. I remember on that subject, must have been about 6 years ago, my son was, he had warrants. He was staying with us. He wouldn't go to the park. He wouldn't walk through the park with us with warrants, because that was a bust.
Oh.
Because, you
might get checked.
Yeah, you're held accountable. And I asked him one time, I said, well, he was homeless in Medford. That's what it was. He was homeless in Medford. And we were together one day talking. I said, well, why are you living in Medford? Why aren't you homeless here in Grants Pass? This is where all your family is. He says, Dad, it's too hard to be homeless here. There's no outreach. It's way easier to be homeless in Medford. And it made sense. I mean, that's where all the outreach was. They've got more money. They've got all this outreach. He could make a lot of money on the corner that he couldn't make here.
Oh.
Flying a sign. He could make it. He could be a drug addict and live on the street and make it in Medford easy. But he couldn't do it here then.
Wow.
But things have changed a lot in the last 5 years.
Yeah, a lot more outreach here.
Yes, and so now they're all like, well, Grants Pass is even better. So.
Wow. So, now this may be, people that don't really know that much about this topic, they don't even consider to look at these organizations which are helping the homeless and do any sort of analysis as to whether or not this is helping or hurting matters. Now, you may have seen an interview that the television station aired, like 20 seconds of an interview with the owner of R&M Lumber, which is right next to and he suggested that he doesn't think they're doing any good at all. People might debate him on, the level of, but basically what's happening, as I understand it, for the most part, this is government grant money, which filters down to them in some circuitous fashion, and then finally gets to them, and we're financing what they're doing with our own tax money.
Enabling.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let's go back to the San Francisco thing 25 years ago. Right? When they started harm reduction. All you got to do is think, it's been 20 years of doing it a certain way, and where are we?
Numbers.
Yeah. It's right there. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure any of that out.
Right.
So obviously this isn't working. Something's really bad. And and what do? You can't get rid of them. Our only option is to fix them. So let's talk about fixing them. How do we do that?
But now you got a problem.
Yeah.
Because you have businesses, companies that are involved in the, nonprofit outreach business, and it is a business. They're making money doing it. So if you fix the people, they're not going to have customers.
Like with pharmaceutical companies. Yeah.
Yes, somewhat similar to that. And so those people are going to be mad. And part of the problem with these people. I didn't want to get that political in this
No, but it's
in
true.
this video,
Yeah.
but this is the reality
Yeah.
of the situation, is that these many of these companies / nonprofits are also quite activist politically. And you know, when there's something having to do, if their ox is being gored at the city council, they got a line of people out the door to come say what great people they are.
Right.
And so that makes politicians that much less amenable towards cutting them off in some way.
Yeah, it's all about money. But, you know, our vote changes that. You know, you change the leadership, and you can shake a lot of that stuff up.
Right.
You know, I would think, I would hope.
Right. But
I mean,
then
but
you also have the issue now with, you have HB 3115, and that's being imposed on us from the state level.
Right.
And, you know, unless you overturn that law, you're going to get stuck jumping through hoops. And ultimately, I can see that they'll end up at the same solution that the other council did, and that's being in pursuit of a permanent shelter.
Right. And that all gets into one of the reasons I think they're afraid of being sued is because they haven't determined time, place, and manner yet. So we don't even know what rules to make because we
Right.
might be breaking the law. So
Right.
they haven't really told us what law to follow, but they want us to abide by it.
Right, and you have a standard that says it needs to be objectively reasonable.
Right.
Well, that's
What is that?
That's subjective.
Yeah.
You know, it's. I believe that it's meant to be that way to lead to lawsuits like this
Right.
that are
To
gonna
keep our city
force
council on their toes. And,
yeah,
Yeah.
and force the hand of the community to help them.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be our lawyer right now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know,
I
having
can
trouble
imagine.
finding somebody for that.
Right.
But, you know, we're learning as we go. Like I said, we're the guinea pig of the nation. It's weird, Little Grants Pass.
Yeah.
And I remember when that first lawsuit came, the gal she was staying in a vacant lot that the city owned. Somebody called the police, and she was arrested, and she got the lawyer, and that started the lawsuit here. And it was just a little story in the paper. I just remember reading it. About a year and a half later, 2 years later, all of a sudden they're in the parks, camping in the parks. We were all shocked. What's an injunction?
Yeah,
What's happening?
right, yeah.
You know, and that's how we formed with Park Watch. It's just we're, you know, familiar faces from city hall meetings, and we just started meeting on Sundays, and then we started thinking, well, you know what this is? This is not only a political war, it's a propaganda war, right? So people are lying. They're lying through their teeth, and until we can show them that they're lying, show the public they're lying, nothing's going to change. So that's why when people didn't believe what was happening in the parks, I started wearing the camera and walking through, and they say there's no drugs in the park. Yes, there is. Look. Oh, there's not paraphernalia all over. Yes, there is. Look. Look. In fact, they say, well, you're planting that. So what we did, we saved it for 5 months. And we had a pile of it. Said, this is what we picked up in 5 months. And I use that as propaganda, because when people say you're out there, you're not doing anything, blah, blah, blah. I sent a couple videos
Right.
of people smoking meth in the bathroom or the junk we're picking up off the ground. How can you say
Propaganda goes both ways.
it goes both ways?
Yeah.
So I figure I'm fighting a propaganda war. And that's,
Yeah.
you know, that's my angle on it,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, and no, it's true. And I think the message from people that were involved in the situation, and Park Watch had a lot to do with it. They made it public. The sign waving campaigns that you set up down there by the courthouse, that puts you in everybody's mind. And the growth of the Park Watch Facebook group,
Yep.
that helped.
It was also cleaning the ball fields they're going to cancel the Pee Wee
Right.
baseball.
Yes,
So
it's good PR.
It was great PR, and I used it. I filmed it, and I used it. I don't want to say it was just for propaganda. I mean, our hearts were in it, but I did use it. I mean, I'm like, how can you call us bad when? See, they tried saying we're harassing people. So
Yes.
but we wanted to show what's happening. So part of the way we did that was to go clean the parks. So we're cleaning the parks, and we're filming what we see. And so it went both ways. So that we went from the vigilantes to the park heroes. You know, it's a game.
Right.
Just like the sign waving. When I first wanted to do that, I was posting it on some of the larger Facebook groups. Saying, we're going to have a ticket of protesting and this and that. And I got accused of inciting violence. So I changed the name to we're gonna do rallies. We're having rallies. You know, apparently that's okay. You can have a rally, but you can't have a protest, and it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Right.
Sign waving.
Right.
You know, and that was good. It just we got a lot of feedback. It was good for us too to know that people supported us. What we're doing. It's been a strange, weird trip for 3 years.
Yeah.
You know.
And so, what were you doing before this? How did all this begin for you?
Well, I live across the street from Riverside. I've been here for years. I enjoyed the heck out of music in the park.
Right.
3 months, a new band every Tuesday for 3
Right. You
months.
just walk across the street.
Yeah, I work in the backyard and listen to it. Yeah, it was great. So it was stuff like that. I love going to the park. It's a beautiful park. I'd walk my dogs. And then I saw a couple tents. Thought, well, that's kind of weird. And then a couple more. And then I saw what was happening. Then I saw the drug use. And then there's confrontations in the park. I started having confrontations. So I quit walking my dogs. Didn't go to the park for 3 months. And then they had the shooting, right, from
right.
powwow. And I think it was over a drug deal. Somebody was executed in their tent. And so then they pulled all the camping out of East Riverside Park. So I could once again visit that side. And then I watched it like a hawk. Just make sure there's no tents there, and you know, and I
Right. So
call in
this is
anything I
kind of the
saw.
beginning of your park patrol then.
Yeah, pretty much. That's when it really got. That's when I bought the cameras.
Oh, okay.
Because I learned right away. Everybody's offended if you hold your camera up and you film them, you know, to their face. Nobody likes that.
Right.
Unless you're volunteering for a
But,
photo.
I mean, this is so small. I mean,
you don't really notice it.
And you could say, well, it's not on right now, or
Yeah.
something. You know?
Well, the thing was, I didn't stick around to talk. So what I wanted was the truth. Now, once I start talking to somebody or I confront somebody, I've changed the dynamics, right? And I just want to show what's happening. So I would just walk in the park, kind of walk around and walk out like I would here, go around the path, come in, go back, try to take a slow walk, but I wouldn't stop, you know. That way I'm showing what's happening and I'm not interacting with anybody, except to say hello to somebody, you know. I'll get nods and say hello here and there. They're not all bad people.
Right.
You know?
Oh, no, I totally get that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they shouldn't be a burden to us.
Nope.
You know, we're paying taxes, and the fact that you're a guest here and you're not paying taxes, you should be that much more diligent about not leaving a mark.
Yeah.
You know?
See, you help a homeless person, you're taking care of a drug addict. You know, if you put a drug addict in an apartment, it's not fixing his drug problem. And if you take a homeless person that doesn't do drugs and put him through rehab, that's not doing anything either. You got to look at the specific problems. Separate them. We're not going to get anything done until we separate these two problems, these two types of homelessness.
Right.
You know, and I've brought homeless people into my home many times over the years, and they're easy to help. They need a place to stay. They need an address, a telephone, a washer and dryer, and a bathroom. They need to be able to save money, and they save money and they move out. It's easy. It takes 5 or 6 months, in most cases. In our case, drug addicts. I've had my son. I've had my brother. We've tried many times. It never, ever, ever works out. And it's the same thing. It's because one of the first things that happens to a drug addict is you lose the ability to organize everything. Your time, your money, your belongings. And that's why all these, when you see a tent or somebody sitting around, there's just trash and little pieces of paper everywhere. That's my son in my house. So there's only so much I can put up with, along with the other things that build up. But it's hard. It's really hard. I can't help him. I've tried many times.
Yeah,
so the homeless people are easy. The drug addicts, if I knew then what I know now, because I've got connections. I know a lot of people in the rehab business and you know, drug specialists, and I know who to hook them up with now. So now I'm just kind of waiting for him, and he's got an open invitation. If he goes to rehab, he's got a room and his job back.
Oh, wow.
He was kicked off some of the jobs I'm on because the contractor said, your son's using, I can't have him here, right?
Yeah, I get it.
If he goes to rehab, I can bring him back. So if he makes that decision, he's got a house.
So in that realm, have you seen some success stories here?
A few here and there. A lot of people reply to our posts on Facebook saying, you know, I was homeless and, you know, I lived out of my car and I've been clean for 10 years. And, you know, there's a lot of stories like that popping up. And I encourage them to tell it more.
Right.
Talk to people about it. People need to hear that.
Right.
You know, other addicts need to know that people can get out of it.
Yeah, it may be that some of these people are kind of defeated and they don't believe that they can do it anymore.
Yeah, you know what? Look, they're not right mentally, right? And they're not right mentally because of the drug. And so when you say, do you want to get clean? The drug says, say no. Because the worst thing for an addict is to be sick, to be dope sick.
Right.
That's what they fight. And they'll rob, steal, and everything to get the drug so they don't get dope sick. That's why somebody that normally wouldn't be hostile to people will fight the cops if he's going to go to jail, because you know he's going to be dope sick in jail, right?
So when you say dope sick, just you're talking about withdrawals.
The withdrawals.
Yeah.
They get really, they call it dope sick on the street. Yeah, it's dope sick. And it's really bad. It's really bad. And something that they can't really explain, but they get really sick. If you get them over that point, then it's a lot easier. But you got to get them over that point.
How long does that take?
First 3 days is terrible, and then it's about 2 weeks, and it starts getting better within about a month. They're usually in pretty good shape to and my son, you know, his mind comes right back. I mean, we start having these conversations we couldn't have when he's using.
Wow.
And but keeping them off the drugs is another thing. So we're talking before, another reason that these mass rehabs that we want won't work right away is because there's not enough specialists. If you want a rehab system to work, you're getting a doctor, mental health specialist, a drug specialist,
people to follow
and
up.
most importantly, a caseworker, a wraparound caseworker that can find each individual person's unique abilities. Can you work? You know, do you have family, or what do you need? What are your abilities in life? How can we help you? And they need to start working on that while they're beginning rehab. That all needs to start happening. So by the time they get out, they've got a vision
in life that replaces the need
and that
for the
3
drug.
months of locking them up could do that.
Yeah.
And how do we know? People say, well, you got to wait till they're ready. Well, how do you know? 25 years of saying that. I call bull on it. Let's try something else.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
right. Yeah.
It's not going to hurt. But then again, we got to put a lot of people, the government needs to start talking about getting people in school. We need people with degrees that can run these places. For mass rehabs, we need mass doctors.
So, in a sense, you're talking about the rebirth of
Mental health
institutions.
Yeah, pretty much. Only geared to drug. See, this is fixable. The mental health places where people that were there's a lot of people that are just mentally ill.
Right.
Drug addicts can be fixed. That's why they're trying to push this thing now where they're saying, well, if you're a drug addict, you're disabled. To a point, you're disabled because you're a drug addict. But I don't know, to me, if you're disabled, that means you can't be fixed. If you can fix it, it's like saying a car is, ruined or is it broke. If it's broke, I can fix it.
Right.
So we need to start looking at it that way too. Let's fix these people.
Yeah.
We can do it, but it's going to take long. It ain't going to happen right away.
But you know what? If you're using them for a purpose, then you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And people really need to get serious about facing the possibility of that. We've become so much more aware about pharmaceutical companies in the past few years because of all the examination of their motives and what they really do. And we need to do the same thing with, the homeless industrial complex and all of the other stuff. This is there's a lot of elements to this. If you looked at this as a flow chart, there'd be a lot of little islands on it.
There's money in tent stock right now.
Oh, I bet there is.
Sleeping bags and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, you can make some money.
Yeah.
That's what we'll be fighting. Companies that are, somebody's making a lot of money. Where do all these tents come from? I want somebody who could follow that up. Who makes them all?
Right.
Or who's dispersing them to the outreach?
Do they show up in a tractor trailer rig and unload them all at one time? Or
do they have numbers on the tents versus the sleeping bags? I thought a couple of years ago they should do like a bounty on them. Put like you do with recycling.
Oh, right.
So like each tent would be worth, I don't know, one tent's worth $10, sleeping bag's worth $5 or something.
Right.
So give them the money to bring it back in so it doesn't sit and cause blight. Because we're spending a lot of money for the city to pick it up. And we're picking it up where it sits there and looks bad. Maybe the outreach could use their money to buy it back. I don't know. That was just a silly idea that makes sense. But put a bounty on them. If it's worth something, they'll take it in. They do with a tin can, right? You see them steal a case of water and empty all the water out from the bottle drop so they get the money for the recycling.
Yeah, I've seen it.
So... I'll pay them 5 cents a bag of poop if they pick up the dog poop. Not really, but you know, let's get creative.
Yeah. No, you know what? I think common sense people who don't have political motives, who don't have financial motives, can get to the bottom of this thing.
Yeah.
But I think people that are financially conflicted, politically conflicted, they cannot and will not.
They're going to have to wait until the will of the people wants to do it. They're going to have to be afraid for their job.
Right. Yes.
You know, and until enough people say it. But I'll tell you this, like I said, this town is waking up. I mean, there's a lot of people that are really, finally, these responses I'm hearing people make, I'm hearing a lot of them, and they're all saying the same thing. You know, enough is enough. We can't live like this. You know, we need more law enforcement. We need to do something about the drug problem. These aren't homeless people. Don't make me feel bad. Don't guilt trip me because I don't want somebody shooting up in front of my house. Don't tell me I'm an anti-homeless person because I don't want to find foil on my lawn. You know, it's propaganda war. They're guilt tripping us. And how do we help the truly homeless when they're all mixed up with everything else?
Right.
I don't know who to help.
Right.
I want to help, but I'm not going to give money to somebody that's going to buy drugs. I want to give money to if I know I'm going to feed somebody.
Right. And you don't have the time to vet them. And the thing is that if there wasn't such a huge drug problem, it would be a whole lot easier to say, well, the odds are pretty good that I'm handing my money to somebody who's going to do the right thing with it, as opposed to just shoot it into their arm.
Cause to the blight. I mean, you're feeding the system when you do that. You know, but one can only hope. Keep trying to make things better.
Well, and so, listen, none of us can say which way this whole thing's going to go. The HB 3115, they will keep haggling over what is objectively reasonable, and sadly, they're going to settle on something that's probably not to our benefit. But then what? Are we stuck with it permanently?
I think at the moment we'll at least be stuck something like the Rogue Retreat in Medford. You know, if we ran something like that,
which
it would
costs
be doable.
them millions of dollars a year.
Yeah, I know this. I know
to
Medford's helping out. I don't know what percentage.
Yeah.
And we don't have that kind of money.
Well,
maybe they should
all
go
of
by.
it's tax
Maybe
money,
they
though.
should say, hey, look, you got to look at how, you know, do it percentage wise. We've got 40,000 people or so in this town. What does Medford have? About 300,000 or something?
Yeah,
something around there.
Yeah.
Maybe do percentage wise. We can't take as many as they can. We can only take so many people in our town. Only so many homeless. Maybe a little registration would do good. Hey, I'm from here. I need help. I need a place to stay. Okay, what's your name? Where are you staying? You know. I don't know, but no good idea works. There's always something that it collides with it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Conflicts of interest, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's too bad that that's an issue in this, because you know what? Back in the day, when they pulled homeless people off the street, they tried to send them off in the right direction or whatever, and drug addicts got treatment.
Yeah.
You know, or they went to jail or whatever, but maybe even that was a good thing to help them dry out. But if you have a permanent campsite, and I think they want something that fits the low barrier definition.
Yeah.
And then that's just a big drug party.
Yeah. Can be. Rogue Retreat's pretty good though. They don't allow it there, but somebody can leave and go do something. So what you have to worry about is the outlying areas. That's kind of what's happening with Mint. That's why, you know, we're not totally against what Mint's doing, but the location is really bad because they're right next to all the parks. And it's, you know, it's right there on 6th Street, a lot of traffic. And so what we're seeing, the people I know with businesses in the area, they're cleaning up all the paraphernalia each night. So what they'll do is they leave the premises and then they do the drugs and they go back to Mint for whatever services they're getting at the time. And they're planning on opening up, 49 beds or 40 beds or something in the future. So we'll see how that goes. I think it's going to cause a lot of animosity between the public and them. And I'd like to see that handled. I mean, I thought, you know, their side gets so mad that the community is upset with the homeless, right? They're saying they're so mean and nasty to us. And I'm thinking, well, why don't you do something to earn our respect? If we can put up a cleaning team and go out and clean something, why don't you? Get half a dozen homeless people, go clean up a dirty alley, film it, package it up, take a photo, and I'll put it on my group. And let the people know that there's some people that care. But I don't see anything coming back.
Right.
You know? I don't see anybody organizing on their side trying to help the community and this homeless problem get along better. They're not trying on their part at all. And they expect us not to be upset with it.
Okay. So, I don't know. that seems like it sums the whole thing up. The rest of the issue is, until some common sense solutions are implemented, what is the cost in crime and the inability to have quiet enjoyment of our property and expectations for safety in the community?
Yeah. Well, I think that people are now waking up, and I think we need to know the numbers. I think people need to start following the money. I want to find out how much the nonprofits are getting, where is it going, how much is wasted. We need to be dodged. Basically, I don't want to be political either, but
yeah, right.
We do. We need someone to get in there and say, these are the numbers, and can we do better with it?
Yeah.
And it's been 25 years. Can we try some new ideas?
Oh,
can you quit saying that forced rehab won't work until you try it? It's either that or jail.
Right.
I mean, if somebody says, you don't want to go to jail for 3 months, you want to go to rehab for 3 months. Humane. And nice, doesn't have to be a torture for them.
Right.
To get clean. You need to let them know that we can help you without you going through hell.
Right. Yeah, as opposed to if you're in jail, who knows what kind of help you're going to get.
From what I hear, it's just terrible.
Yeah.
So, I guess that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. Appreciate you taking the time with me, Brock.
Oh, my pleasure. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah,
it's a nice
fantastic.
day to walk in the park. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So lucky to have this little weather break here.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a good summer. We can finally get out and enjoy the parks again and have some festivities and see the kids play and the elderly walk their dogs and the moms push their babies. That's what I miss. That's what we're fighting for.
Yep. All right, Brock.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mike.